Hana pressed her face against the cold metal window of the orbital defense station. Below her, Earth turned slowly in the darkness of space. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from this distance, but Hana knew better. She knew that, in a few hours, this might be the last time anyone would see Earth whole. The warning lights flashed red across the station. Enemy ships filled the space around Earth like angry insects. The Thakari Empire had finally come to finish what they started 12 years ago. Hana counted the alien vessels through the window. Too many to count, too many to fight. Commander Lee. A young soldier ran up to her. His face was pale with fear. General Yoon wants to see you in the command center. Hana nodded and followed. The soldier through the narrow hallways of the station. She had been fighting the Thakari since she was 16 years old. Now at 28, she could not remember a time without war. Her hands were covered in scars from countless battles. Her left shoulder still hurt from the fight at Titan Station 3 months ago. The command center buzzed with activity. Officers ran between computer screens showing the positions of enemy ships. Red dots covered every display. The Thakari fleet was massive. General Yoon stood in the center of the room, his gray hair messy from stress. He looked up when Hana entered. Hana, thank goodness you are here. General Yoon pointed at the main screen. Look at this. They have brought everything. Every ship in their fleet is here. Hana studied the display. The Thakari had arranged their ships in perfect formation around Earth. Their large command ships stayed in the back while smaller attack vessels moved closer to the planet. It was a classic siege formation. They planned to destroy every defense station, then attack Earth itself. How many ships do we have left? Hana asked. 43 fighters, 12 defense stations, 3 cruisers. General Yoon's voice was quiet. They have over 800 ships. Hana felt her stomach drop. The numbers were worse than she thought. Around the room, other officers stopped their work to listen. Everyone knew what these numbers meant. This was the end. Sir, what about the other colonies? Can they send help? Asked Captain Kim Soo-jin. She was Hana's best friend and had fought beside her in dozens of battles. General Yoon shook his head. New Shanghai fell yesterday. The Martian colonies surrendered this morning. We are alone. Hana closed her eyes and thought about her younger brother Jin-woo. He worked in the tech department on Luna Base. When she last talked to him, he was trying to fix the defense computers there. She hoped he was safe, but Luna Base was probably the first target the Thakari would hit. Commander Lee. General Yoon walked over to her. I have a special mission for you. Hana opened her eyes. She could see the desperation in the general's face. Whatever this mission was, it would be dangerous. Probably a suicide mission. The Thakari command ship is in the center of their formation. It is heavily protected, but our intelligence says it controls their entire fleet. If we can destroy it or damage its communication systems, their other ships will be confused for a while. Hana understood immediately. You want me to get inside their command ship? Yes. Take a small team. Use one of their own transport ships that we captured last month. Get inside, cause as much damage as possible, and try to get back. And if we cannot get back? General Yoon was quiet for a moment. Then at least Earth will have a chance to fight back while their fleet is confused. Hana looked around the command center. Every person there was ready to die for Earth. These were good people who had families and dreams. They deserved better than this hopeless last stand. But sometimes, hopeless was all you had. I will need a team of 12 people, all volunteers. Hana turned to Soo-jin. Are you with me? Soo-jin smiled, but Hana could see the fear in her eyes. Always. Good. Get the best fighters we have, people who can think fast and fight hard. As Soo-jin left to gather the team, Hana walked back to the window. The Thakari ships seemed closer now. She could make out the details of their dark metal hulls. The aliens had been conquering planets for hundreds of years. They were efficient killers who showed no mercy to the species they defeated. But they had made one mistake. They thought humans were just another weak species that would surrender when faced with superior force. They did not understand that humans became most dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. Hana's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Jin-woo on Luna Base. Sister, I can see the alien ships from here. They are beautiful in a scary way. I want you to know that I am proud of you. Whatever happens today, remember that we never gave up. The human spirit is stronger than their ships. Hana smiled and typed back, "Stay safe, little brother. This is not over yet." But as she sent the message, alarms began screaming throughout the station. On the main display, the Thakari ships were moving. The attack had begun. Explosions lit up the space around Luna Base. Hana watched in horror as the base where her brother worked disappeared in a ball of fire. Her hands pressed against the window so hard her knuckles turned white. The Thakari had just made their second mistake. They had made this personal. "Commander Lee, your team is ready," Sujin called from across the room. Hana turned away from the window. The fear she had felt moments before was gone. In its place was something much more dangerous. Cold anger filled her chest. These aliens wanted to destroy humanity. They wanted to erase every trace of human existence from the galaxy. They were about to learn why that was a very bad idea. "Let us go teach them about human stubbornness," Hana said as she walked toward the hangar bay where her team waited. Behind her, Earth continued to turn in space. Soon, the Thakari would discover that conquering humanity was much harder than they thought. The stolen Thakari transport ship moved silently through space toward the enemy fleet. Hana sat in the pilot seat, her hands steady on the alien controls. Behind her, 11 other soldiers checked their weapons one final time. They all knew this mission would probably be their last. Sujin sat next to Hana in the co-pilot seat. She studied the scanner readings showing hundreds of Thakari ships around them. "The command ship is directly ahead. It is 3 times bigger than anything else in their fleet." Hana nodded. The massive vessel looked like a dark mountain floating in space. Weapon turrets covered its surface like deadly flowers. Fighter ships buzzed around it like protective insects. Getting inside would be nearly impossible. Getting out would be even harder. "Remember the plan," Hana spoke into her communication device so all team members could hear. "We dock with the command ship using their own transport codes. Once inside, we split into 3 groups. Group 1 takes the engine room. Group 2 hits the communication center. Group 3 comes with me to find their command bridge." The transport ship shook as they passed through the energy barrier protecting the command ship. Hana held her breath, waiting for alarms to sound. But nothing happened. The stolen transport codes were still working. "Docking Bay 7 is opening," Sujin reported. "They are letting us in." Hana guided the ship into the massive docking bay. Thakari ships filled the space around them. Alien soldiers moved between the vehicles, preparing for the attack on Earth. None of them paid attention to one more transport ship arriving. The team left their ship and walked across the docking bay. Hana had seen Thakari soldiers before, but being surrounded by so many of them made her skin crawl. They were tall reptilian creatures with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Each one carried weapons that could cut through human armor like paper. "This way," whispered Private Lee Dong-ho, the team's tech specialist. He had studied captured Thakari ship designs for months. "The lift to the upper levels is through that door." They moved carefully through the corridors of the alien ship. The walls were made of some kind of black metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed softly along the ceiling, probably providing information to the alien crew. As they reached the lift, Hana heard something that made her stop. It was a sound she had not expected to hear on an enemy warship. Someone was crying. "Do you hear that?" Sujin whispered. Hana nodded. The crying was coming from somewhere below them. It sounded like multiple voices, not just one person. She made a quick decision. "Change of plans, we go down first." The lift carried them to the lower levels of the ship. The corridors here were different. Instead of the clean military areas above, these looked more like prison cells. The crying was louder now, and Hana could hear other sounds too, voices speaking in languages she did not recognize. They found the source of the sounds behind a heavy metal door. Dong-ho worked on the lock while the others kept watch. After a few minutes, the door opened with a soft hiss. Hana stepped inside and stopped in shock. The room was huge and filled with cages. But these were not cages for animals. They held people. Dozens of different alien species were trapped behind energy barriers, all of them looking weak and scared. "What is this place?" Sujin asked quietly. An alien near the front of the room heard her and looked up. He was tall and thin with blue skin and large silver eyes. When he spoke, his voice was tired but clear. "This is where they keep their slaves. My name is Choi Minho. I am from the planet Valith. We were the first species the Thakari conquered 20 years ago." Hana felt her anger grow even hotter. She had thought this war was about territory or resources. She had not known the Thakari were taking prisoners and using them as slaves. "How many species are here?" she asked Minho. 15 different worlds. Hundreds of us in total. We work in their factories, build their ships, and maintain their weapons. Those who resist are killed." Hana looked around the prison. She saw creatures that looked like large cats, others that reminded her of birds, and some that were completely unlike anything from Earth. All of them were watching her team with hope in their eyes. "Can you fight?" Hana asked Minho. The alien's silver eyes grew bright with surprise. "You want to free us?" "I want to do more than that. I want to turn this ship against the Thakari fleet." Minho stood up straighter. Despite looking weak from imprisonment, Hana could see strength in him. "We have been waiting 20 years for someone to ask us that question. Yes, we can fight. We know this ship better than the Thakari do. We built most of it." Sujin grabbed Hana's arm. "This changes everything. If we can free all these prisoners and turn them against the crew, we might actually be able to capture this ship instead of just damaging it." Hana's mind raced with new possibilities. A captured Thakari command ship would be worth 100 suicide attacks, but it would also be much more dangerous. They would have to fight their way through the entire crew. "Minho, how many Thakari are on this ship?" "About 300 crew members, but there are over 400 of us prisoners. The problem is that we have no weapons." Dongho smiled and patted his equipment pack. "That is what we brought these for." Hana made her decision. "We are changing the mission. Instead of sabotage, we are going for capture. Minho, can you get word to the other prisoners without alerting the Thakari?" "Yes. We have our own communication system. The guards think we are too stupid to organize, but we have been planning for years." "Good. Tell them to be ready in 1 hour. We will take the armory first, then distribute weapons. After that, we hit the bridge and engine room at the same time." As Minho spoke quickly to other prisoners in their own languages, Hana felt something she had not felt since the war began. Hope. Real hope. Not just desperate determination. Thakari thought they were conquering the galaxy one species at a time. They had no idea they were creating an army of enemies who knew their ships, their weapons, and their weaknesses. Today, that army would finally strike back. Hana crouched behind a pile of metal crates in the Thakari armory. Around her, freed prisoners from a dozen different worlds checked their new weapons. The ship's alarm system screamed warnings in the alien language, but it was too late. The rebellion had already begun. "Group 2 has taken the engine room," Sujin reported through her communication device. "Group 3 is fighting their way to the bridge." Minho appeared beside Hana, carrying a Thakari plasma rifle that looked huge in his thin hands. "The prisoners on Deck 7 have overpowered their guards. Deck 9 is still fighting." Hana nodded and checked her own weapon. The past hour had been chaos, but good chaos. The Thakari crew had not expected their slaves to fight back. They were used to easy victories against defenseless prisoners. "How many crew members are left?" Hana asked. "Maybe 50, all gathered on the bridge," Minho replied. "But Hana, there is something you need to know. This ship has communication links to every Thakari vessel in the fleet. If we can control the bridge, we can send messages to other ships." Hana felt her heart race with excitement. "You mean we can contact slaves on other ships?" "Yes, and more than that. We can access their military networks. We can see the locations of every Thakari fleet in the galaxy." The possibilities made Hana's mind spin. This was not just about capturing one ship anymore. This could be the start of something much bigger. A rebellion that could spread across the entire galaxy. "Sujin, meet me at the bridge with everyone you can spare." Hana spoke into her device. We are going to end this war today. The final battle for the bridge was fierce but short. The remaining Thakari crew fought hard, but they were outnumbered 4-1. When the last alien soldier fell, Hana stood in the command center of the most powerful ship in the Thakari fleet. Minho quickly moved to the communication controls. His fingers danced over the alien symbols as if he had been using these systems his whole life. I am connecting to the slave quarters on 17 other ships. They can hear us. Hana stepped up to the main communication panel. Through the speakers, she could hear voices in dozens of different languages. All of them were asking the same question in their own words. What is happening? My name is Lee Hana from the planet Earth. She spoke clearly into the device. 1 hour ago, you were slaves. Now you are free. The choice is yours. Stay prisoners or fight back. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Voices shouted in excitement and determination. Some cried with joy. Others roared with anger that had been building for years. Minho turned to Hana with amazement in his silver eyes. They are all saying yes. Every ship is reporting that their prisoners want to fight. Then let us give them the tools they need. Hana turned to Dong-ho. Can you use their systems to send technical information to the other ships? Ship layouts, weapon locations, guard schedules? Already working on it, Dong-ho replied, his hands flying over the computer controls. I am also sending them the security codes to unlock their prison doors. Over the next 2 hours, Hana watched something incredible happen. Across 17 Thakari warships, prisoners broke free and took control. Some ships fell quickly when the slaves outnumbered the crew by huge amounts. Others required longer battles, but the result was always the same. Sujin stood next to Hana as they watched the tactical display. Red dots representing Thakari ships were changing to blue as the slaves took control. 13 ships captured so far. 2 more are still fighting. The others are trying to escape. Let them run back to their empire, Hana said. Let them tell their leaders what happened here. Let them spread fear instead of us spreading it. Minho approached them with news that would change everything. Hana, I have been studying their communication logs. The Thakari have enslaved over 300 different species across the galaxy. Millions of prisoners on thousands of ships and planets. Hana felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. What had started as a desperate mission to save Earth had become something much larger. She was no longer just a human soldier. She had become the leader of a galactic rebellion. Can we contact the other enslaved worlds? She asked. Yes, but it will take time. The Thakari have been very careful to keep different slave populations separated. They do not want uprisings like this one. Then we make contact slowly and carefully. We plan. We organize. We turn their own empire against them. Sujin looked worried. Hana, this is huge. We are talking about a war across the entire galaxy. Do we have the right to make that decision for all these species? Hana understood her friend's concern, but when she looked around the bridge at the freed prisoners working together, she saw something the Thakari had not expected. Different species helping each other, sharing knowledge, building trust. We are not making the decision for them, Hana replied. We are giving them the choice they never had before, the choice to be free. Over the communication system, reports continued to come in from the captured ships. The prisoners were not just celebrating their freedom. They were organizing, planning, and preparing to help others. A voice came through the speakers in accented English. It was a freed slave from one of the other ships. Commander Hana, this is Captain Ren from the Bird People of Kairos. We have taken our ship. What are your orders? Hana looked at the tactical display showing Earth surrounded by hundreds of enemy vessels. But now 15 of those ships were on humanity's side. And this was just the beginning. All ships, this is Commander Lee Hana of Earth. Today we struck the first blow for freedom. Tomorrow we strike the second. And we keep striking until every cage is empty and every slave is free. The cheers that came through the speakers were in dozens of languages, but they all meant the same thing. The rebellion had begun, and it would not stop until the galaxy was free. Hana smiled as she looked out at the stars. The Thakari Empire was about to learn that enslaving different species had been their biggest mistake. Because now all those species had a reason to work together against them. And humans, Hana thought, were very good at bringing different people together for a common cause. 6 months had passed since the first rebellion at Earth. Hana stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching enemy positions on the tactical display. What had started with 15 captured ships had grown into a fleet of over 200 vessels from dozens of different worlds. The war had spread across 17 star systems. Every week brought news of new uprisings as enslaved species learned they were not alone in their fight. But the Thakari Empire was fighting back with savage brutality. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the Kepler Station battle," reported Lieutenant Park So-young, the new communication officer. Her face was pale as she listened to the message. "The Thakari have executed all the prisoners they captured during our last attack." Hana felt ice form in her chest. "How many?" 437 beings from 12 different species. They broadcast the executions to all the slave worlds as a warning. Around the bridge, the mixed crew of humans and aliens fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Thakari were no longer just fighting a war. They were trying to terrorize the rebellion into surrender. Minho approached Hana with concern in his silver eyes. "My friend, I can see what you are thinking. Do not let their cruelty change you into something like them." But Hana was already walking toward the communication center. The cold anger in her chest was growing into something much more dangerous. For 6 months she had tried to fight this war with honor. She had protected prisoners. She had shown mercy to defeated enemies. She had tried to be better than the Thakari. That time was over. "Open a channel to all our ships," Hana commanded. Her voice was quiet, but everyone on the bridge could hear the deadly promise in it. "Channel open, Commander." Hana spoke slowly and clearly. "All ships, this is Hana. The enemy has chosen to murder prisoners instead of fighting soldiers. They want to use fear as a weapon. Let me tell you what I think about that." She paused, remembering the faces of friends who had died in the past months. Sujin, killed during the raid on Proxima Base. Dongho, lost when his ship was destroyed at the Vega system. Good people who had died fighting for freedom. The Thakari think we will surrender if they make us afraid. They are wrong. Fear is not what drives us anymore. What drives us now is fury. The fury of every species they have enslaved. The fury of every world they have destroyed. The fury of everyone who has ever been told they were not strong enough to fight back. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "From now on, we show no mercy to any Thakari who raises a weapon against us. We take no prisoners from ships that have executed rebels. We give them exactly what they have given us. Nothing." The responses that came back from the fleet were immediate and unanimous. Every species, every ship, every crew member agreed. The time for mercy was over. Over the next 3 months, Hana led her forces in a campaign of destruction that became legendary across the galaxy. She struck at enemy supply lines, destroyed communication stations, and captured weapon factories. But more importantly, she rescued slaves. Every Thakari ship they encountered met the same fate. If the crew surrendered immediately and released their prisoners, they were allowed to live. If they resisted, no Thakari survived the battle. Word of Hana's fury spread through both the rebellion and the Empire. Enslaved species began calling her the Fire Woman in their languages. The Thakari started calling her something else, the Deathbringer. But the war was changing Hana in ways that worried her allies. She slept little, ate less, and spent most of her time studying battle reports and planning new attacks. She had become something more and less than the soldier who had started this rebellion. Minho tried to talk to her after a particularly brutal battle at Centauri Station. "Hana, you need to rest. You need to remember why we are fighting this war." "I remember perfectly," Hana replied, without looking away from her tactical displays. "We are fighting because they started killing our people. We are fighting because they think they can terrorize us into submission. We are fighting because someone has to. But what happens when the war is over? What happens to the person you are becoming? Hana finally looked at him, and Minho stepped back at what he saw in her eyes. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much death, caused too much destruction, and forgotten what peace looked like. When the war is over, there will be no more slaves in the galaxy. That is all that matters. The turning point came during the Battle of Rigel Prime. Intelligence reports said it was a major Thakari military base, but when Hana's fleet arrived, they found something different. It was a breeding world where young Thakari were raised and educated. Standing on her bridge, looking down at a planet full of Thakari children, Hana faced the biggest decision of the war. Her fleet could destroy this world and deal a crushing blow to the Empire. It would save countless lives by ending the war faster, but it would also make her exactly what the Thakari had always claimed humans were. Monsters. Commander, what are your orders? Asked Captain Kim from one of the escort ships. Hana stared at the planet below. She thought about Su-Jin, who had died protecting alien children during a rescue mission. She thought about her brother Jin-Woo, killed in the first attack on Luna Base. She thought about all the friends she had lost to this war. Then she thought about what they would want her to do. All ships, stand down. We do not attack civilian targets. We do not become them to defeat them. Some of her captains protested. Some argued that mercy was weakness. But Hana's decision was final. The rebellion would win this war, but it would win it the right way. As they left Rigel Prime behind them, Minho approached Hana again. That was the right choice. Hana nodded, but she felt hollow inside. The war had taken so much from her. Her friends, her family, her peace of mind, and nearly her humanity. She was winning battles across the galaxy, but she wondered if she was losing something more important in the process. Minho, when this war ends, will there be anything left of the person I used to be? Her alien friend was quiet for a long moment, before answering. I do not know, but I know that person is still in there somewhere. The person who chose mercy today instead of revenge. The person who fights for freedom instead of conquest. Hold on to her, Hana. The galaxy will need her when the fighting stops. Hana looked out at the stars and hoped he was right. The war was far from over, but already she could see that victory would come with a price she had never expected to pay. 2 years after the rebellion began, Hana sat alone in her private quarters aboard the flagship. Reports from across the galaxy covered her desk. Victory after victory. The Thakari Empire was crumbling as more species joined the fight for freedom. But Hana felt no joy in these successes. She stared at her reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back was a stranger. Her eyes were cold and hard. Scars covered her hands and arms. Her face had the hollow look of someone who had forgotten how to smile. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Minho entered carrying a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. His blue skin looked pale, and Hana noticed he moved carefully, favoring his left leg. Everyone in the rebellion had paid a price for their freedom. The Thakari homeworld has agreed to peace talks, Minho said, setting the pad on her desk. Hana looked up with surprise. After all this time, they want to talk? They have lost over half their fleet. 40 of their colony worlds have declared independence. Their slave labor system has collapsed completely. They know they cannot win this war. For 2 years, Hana had dreamed of this moment. Total victory over the empire that had caused so much suffering. But now that it was here, she felt empty instead of triumphant. What are their terms? She asked. Complete withdrawal from all non-Thakari systems. Recognition of the independence of all enslaved species, reparations for the worlds they damaged, and they want immunity from prosecution for their leaders. Hana felt anger rise in her chest. Immunity? After everything they have done? Hana, this could end the war. No more battles, no more deaths. Billions of beings could finally live in peace. But Hana was already standing up, pacing around the small room. Peace talks meant compromise. It meant letting the Thakari leaders who had ordered the execution of her friends live comfortable lives, while their victims stayed dead. Set up a meeting with the other fleet commanders. If the Thakari want to talk, they can talk to all of us. 3 days later, representatives from over 50 liberated species gathered on the neutral station at Tau Ceti. Hana sat at the head of the conference table, looking at beings she had fought beside for years. These people trusted her judgment. They looked to her for leadership. The Thackeray delegation arrived in a small, unarmed ship. Their leader, an old reptilian creature named Admiral Koth, walked into the meeting room with his head held high despite his empire's defeat. "Commander Lee Hana," Admiral Koth said in accented English, "your reputation precedes you. The Deathbringer who brought an empire to its knees." Hana studied the alien leader. She had imagined this moment countless times, face to face with one of the creatures responsible for so much death and suffering. She had always pictured herself filled with rage, demanding justice for her fallen friends. Instead, she felt tired. "Admiral Koth, I assume you are here to discuss surrender terms. I am here to discuss peace. My government is prepared to make significant concessions to end this conflict." For the next 6 hours, they negotiated. The Thackeray would withdraw from all conquered worlds. They would provide resources to help rebuild damaged civilizations. They would release detailed records of all their military activities so that missing beings could be found, but they would not surrender their leaders for trial, and they would not admit that their actions constituted war crimes. During a break in the talks, Hana walked out onto an observation deck where she could see the stars. Captain Park So-young followed her. "Commander, what do you think? Should we accept their terms?" Hana was quiet for a long moment. 2 years ago, I would have said no. I would have demanded complete justice for everyone they killed. But now, I look at you and see how tired you are. I think about all the beings in our fleet who just want to go home and see their families. I think about the species that are still fighting for their freedom and need our help." So-young nodded. "The war has cost us all something. The question is, what will cost us more? Continuing to fight until we have perfect justice, or accepting imperfect peace so that the killing can stop?" When the talks resumed, Hana made her decision. "Admiral Koth, we will accept your terms with one addition. Any Thackeray leader who committed crimes against civilians will be exiled from your space forever. They can live, but they cannot govern." The Admiral considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed." Just like that, the war was over. No final battle, no dramatic victory, just signatures on a treaty that would reshape the galaxy. Hana should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt lost. That night, Minho found her in the ship's memorial room, where they kept records of everyone who had died fighting for freedom. Thousands of names covered the walls in dozens of languages. "You made the right choice today," Minho said softly. "Did I? Su Jin died fighting these people. Jin Woo died in their first attack. Dong Ho gave his life to save others, and now I let their killers live comfortable retirements. You chose to save lives instead of taking revenge. Su Jin would have understood that choice." Hana touched one of the names on the wall. A human pilot who had died protecting a ship full of alien children. "I do not know how to live in peacetime, Minho. For 3 years, war was my purpose. It was what I was good at. What am I supposed to do now?" Minho placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You learned to build instead of destroy. You helped create the galaxy your friends died to make possible." Over the following weeks, as the various fleets began to separate and return to their homeworlds, Hana struggled with her new reality. She had led the greatest liberation movement in galactic history. She was offered leadership positions by dozens of worlds. People called her a hero, but she felt like a stranger in her own life. The woman who had started this war to save Earth was gone, replaced by someone harder and colder. She had gained the freedom of the galaxy, but lost pieces of herself that she could never get back. Standing on the bridge of her ship for the last time as a military commander, Hana looked out at the stars and wondered if the price of victory had been too high. She had saved billions of lives, but she was not sure she had saved her own soul. The hardest battle of all would be learning to live with peace. 5 years had passed since the end of the Galactic War. Hana stood in front of a massive memorial wall on the newly built peace station, reading names carved in stone. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds who had died fighting for freedom. Their sacrifice had created something beautiful, a galaxy where no species lived as slaves. "The dedication ceremony starts in an hour," said Ambassador Kang Ji-un, approaching from behind. The former diplomat had become Hana's closest advisor in building the new Galactic Federation. Hana nodded, but did not turn away from the wall. She came here often, especially when she faced difficult decisions. The names reminded her why the war had been necessary, even when the cost seemed too high. "How do I look?" Hana asked, gesturing at her formal Federation uniform. It felt strange, after years of wearing battle armor. "Like someone who would rather be anywhere else," Ji-un replied with a small smile, "but also like someone who knows her duty." Today was the 5th anniversary of the peace treaty. Representatives from every world in the Federation would gather to celebrate their freedom and remember those who had died to achieve it. As the first Director General of the Federation, Hana would give the main speech. She still struggled with her role as a peacetime leader. For 3 years, her purpose had been clear: fight the enemy and free the enslaved. Now she spent her days in meetings, negotiating trade agreements and settling disputes between member worlds. It was important work, but it felt strange after the simplicity of war. "Director General, the opening ceremony is about to begin," announced Captain Park So-young. She now served as Hana's security chief, one of the few humans who had chosen to stay with her after the war ended. They walked together through the corridors of Peace Station toward the main assembly hall. The station was built at the exact spot where the first rebellion had begun, orbiting what had once been Earth's last stand. Now it served as the headquarters for a government that stretched across 17 star systems. The assembly hall was filled with beings from dozens of species. Hana recognized many faces from the war years. Minho sat in the front row, now serving as the representative from Valeth. His silver eyes met hers, and he nodded encouragingly. As Hana walked to the podium, she thought about how much everything had changed. The galaxy was at peace, but it was not a perfect peace. Some worlds still struggled with the damage the Thakari had caused. Others faced new challenges as they learned to govern themselves after generations of slavery. 3 months ago, Hana had faced her biggest crisis as Director General. 2 member worlds had started fighting over mining rights in a disputed system. Old rivalries and new freedoms had combined to create the threat of another war. Hana had traveled to both worlds personally. She had listened to their grievances, studied their histories, and found a solution that neither side loved but both could accept. It had taken weeks of careful negotiation, but in the end, peace had been preserved. It was then that Hana had realized something important. She was still fighting for freedom, just in a different way. Instead of fighting against oppression, she was fighting to preserve the liberty that so many had died to create. Standing at the podium now, looking out at the representatives of free worlds, Hana began her speech. 5 years ago, we were not friends. We were not allies. Many of us did not even know the others existed. We were divided by distance, by language, by the barriers our oppressors had built between us. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. She had learned to speak without anger, without the cold fury that had driven her during the war years. We came together because we shared something more important than our differences. We shared the desire to be free. That desire made us strong, enough to break chains that had held some of us for centuries. Hana paused, looking at the faces in the audience. She saw hope there, and determination, and something else that had been missing during the war years. She saw happiness. Today we remember those who died to give us this freedom. But we also celebrate what we have built with their sacrifice. A galaxy where no being is property, where every world has the right to choose its own path, where different species work together instead of fighting each other. In the front row, Minho was smiling. Beside him sat representatives from the bird people of Kiros, the cat-like beings from Altair, and dozens of other species, all of them free because they had chosen to trust each other when it mattered most. The war taught us that we are stronger, together than apart. Peace is teaching us that we can create beautiful things when we are not afraid. The Federation is not perfect. We still have problems to solve and challenges to face, but we face them as free beings, making our own choices. Hana's voice grew stronger as she reached the end of her speech. To those who died for our freedom, we make this promise. We will not waste what you gave us. We will protect it, improve it, and pass it on to the generations that follow. Your sacrifice created not just peace, but hope for a better future. The applause that followed was thunderous. Beings from dozens of worlds, speaking hundreds of languages, all celebrating the same thing: freedom. After the ceremony, Hana walked alone to her private office. Through the large window she could see Earth in the distance, blue and green and beautiful. Ships from many worlds moved peacefully through the space around it, carrying trade goods and passengers instead of weapons. On her desk was a message from the Peacekeeping Corps, the organization she had created to prevent new conflicts before they became wars. They reported another successful mediation between two worlds that had been heading toward violence. No shots fired, no lives lost, just patient negotiation and compromise. Hana smiled as she read the report. This was what victory looked like. Not the destruction of enemies, but the prevention of new conflicts. Not the silence of the defeated, but the voices of the free working together to solve their problems. There was a soft knock on her door. "Come," and Minho entered carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might want some company." They sat together in comfortable silence looking out at the stars. Finally, Minho spoke. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing peace over perfect justice?" Hana considered the question carefully. "Sometimes. When I remember Su Jin or Jin Woo or any of the others, I wonder if I should have demanded more. But then, I see children from different worlds playing together on the station or read reports about species helping each other rebuild after disasters. I think our friends would be proud of what we built." "I think so too." Hana stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, she could see the lights of ships arriving for tomorrow's trade conference. Peaceful ships carrying goods and ideas instead of weapons and death. "Minho, do you remember what you asked me during the war? About what would happen to the person I was becoming?" "Yes. I think I found the answer. The war made me into someone who could fight for freedom. Peace is teaching me to be someone who can protect it. They are both necessary, they are both me." Minho joined her at the window. The warrior and the peacekeeper. The woman who learned that sometimes you have to fight for peace and sometimes you have to work for it. Outside, the stars shone down on a galaxy at peace. It was not a perfect peace, but it was real peace. Built on the choices of free beings working together, it was worth fighting for, worth protecting, and worth the price they had paid to achieve it. Hana had found her purpose again. Not as a weapon of war, but as a guardian of the peace that war had made possible. The fury that had once driven her had transformed into something gentler but no less strong, the determination to ensure that no species would ever again know the chains of slavery. The warrior woman fueled by war had become something new, a leader fueled by hope for a better tomorrow.